Hello and welcome to the ICF webinar, Why Sustainability Needs to Be Your New Economic Development Strategy. My name is Robert Bell, and I'll be able to, you'll know that in just a second when I'm able to finally advance this slide. There we are. And I'm one of the co-founders of the Intelligent Community Forum, and we welcome you very much to this event. It's kind of an interesting one, we hope. A couple of housekeeping details to get us started. All attendees will be in listen-only mode during this. But we do very much want to include your comments and questions in our discussion. So I urge you to use the Zoom chat. We're monitoring that, and I will do my best to work those into the conversation as we go. And finally, following this, a recording, both video and audio, will be available to all attendees for sharing after this event. Just a brief word about the Intelligent Community Forum, in case you don't know who we are. We are a research, consulting, and training organization serving a network of more than some 200 cities, counties, and regions around the world. And what we do for them is varied. We offer them powerful evidence-based strategies for growing their local economies, for sustaining that growth, and also for solving the problems that growth brings. And we do that through leadership training, which is conducted online and in person in both economic and community development, through research, assessment, and consulting on community potential and also community progress, through certification of cities and regions as intelligent communities, that certification being designed to provide strong economic development value, as well as to validate the hard work of the volunteers and the administrative and elected leaders of your community who are making change happen, and to enable continuous improvement in how you're going about that development. And finally, through conferences and an international award program that engages communities and partnerships to seize those global growth opportunities. We'll be in just to the east of Toronto on June 19th and 20th for our Top 7 Intelligent Communities Conference, Better Together. And that's in the Durham region of the Greater Toronto area. And then in October, we're going to be in New York City doing our annual Global Summit on October 25th and 26th. So, of course, all of this begs a question, which is, what is an intelligent community? And it's very straightforward, if quite complex. In a world dominated by digital, and indeed that is our world, I've come to call the first part of the 21st century the digital decades, intelligent communities work across 6 factors to create innovative and growing economies that are economically inclusive of as much of their population as it is possible to do, and communities that have an affirming and engaged culture. Because these are the things that make a place a great place to live, a great place to work, to build a business, to raise a family, and to prepare, a great future for the next generation. And they accomplish this work by turning that digital domination to their own benefit, tapping that enormous potential of technology for the good of the community and not just the good of the owners of that tech. These are the 6 factors we look at, and today we're going to be talking about one of them, sustainability. Environmental sustainability has been wrapped in politics since the idea was born. And why else would there be resistance in so many places, not just in the US where I'm based, but really around the world, to the idea that people need clean air, clean water, clean soil, and a climate that sustains life? And I think it's really no mystery. For decades, sustainability was presented as a way that we have to give up something now, give up a great deal now sometimes of things we value in order to achieve some benefit in years or decades in the future. And that's a really hard sell to convince anybody of. And that's why people like me are still flying in airplanes and doing other things that are pumping more carbon into the air than we really should be allowed to do. But today, I think we are seeing signs of truly welcome change. Politics and public perception can evolve slowly, but technology, that can move fast. People are now voting with their money for solar panels and for wind power, because once you install it, the fuel is free, right? They're buying electric cars because they're better and cheaper to own. And as more and more of us accept that climate change is happening and it's changing in bad ways, changing the world in bad ways, we are waking up to just how much money there is to be made in reducing emissions and in helping us adapt to the climate change that we can't avoid. And that's something that we at ICF think every economic development official needs to take very seriously. Cities and counties, of course, will need to continue investing in fixing the problems of the past, from brownfields to air pollution. But we are going to see existing businesses grow, and thousands of new businesses are born to seize the sustainability opportunity. And that's what we want to focus on today. We're going to do that with a couple of real experts who can talk from direct experience as well as a great deal of research and study. And they are Steve Furness, who's Manager of Economic Development and Tourism in Grey County, which is in the province of Ontario in Canada, and Hector Cañas, who is a Senior Consultant for Babel Smart Cities. He's based in Barcelona, Spain. That company works throughout Europe and parts of the world in helping communities make the most of this smart city movement that has been such a success in so many places. So both our speakers are going to share with us a brief presentation to give us some background, and then we'll go to questions. So let's start with Steve Furness. Steve?
Thank you. The slide here on Grey County, I think, is coming up. All right, so Grey County, we're in Ontario, Canada, obviously. Next slide, we're just about 2 hours north of Toronto. We're located on Georgian Bay, very clean, large body of water, and we're actually not very far from Lake Huron, which is another large body of water. Next slide. So Ontario, very diverse population, 15 million people, almost 40% of Canada's population. We're located in the heart of North America. 14 border locations to the United States, so they're very much linked, the Ontario economy, including Grey counties, to the U.S. Border trade is valued at $2 billion a day, and we have a very large talent pool, colleges and universities, of which in Sound and Grey County we have a community college. Next slide. So some quick facts about Grey. Our population just rose to just over 100,000. In 2021, that's up 7.5%. We note that because historically our growth has been very slow. And with that great big increase in population, so has the mean value of dwellings, which is almost doubled in over about a 5-year period. Our top sectors, employment sectors, is healthcare, manufacturing, retail. These kind of switch around over time. But what you're seeing here is a fairly diverse economy within the region. And I would say another important driver is tourism. One of the things and characteristics of Grey County is it takes a long time to get from one end of Grey County to the other. It takes at least an hour to drive from one end. And it's a very large geographic area, with the largest community being Owen Sound, about 21,000 people. Next slide. So our investment attraction at Grey, it really is always focused on agriculture and tourism, which is our resource-based communities and sectors. That's been going on for a long time and will continue. We have to work hard to keep them sustainable as well. But a clean energy frontier, which is what the region is looking at, a number of energy sources have been developed. Bruce Power, being about an hour away from Grey County on Lake Huron, has started a refurbishment of their reactors. Now, this is the largest nuclear facility in the world with 8 reactors. They're spending a significant amount of money redoing those reactors and significantly increasing the output and extending the life of those reactors. But what has been interesting about Bruce Power is that the new CEO of Bruce Power specifically mentioned or directed that suppliers needed to show up in the region. That was not always the case. So we've had 60 new nuclear businesses relocate to Grey and Bruce counties over the last 5 to 6 years. What's exciting in the nuclear world, because it is emission free, is there's lots of discussion about new designs, microreactors, new reactors, and a positive push. The other opportunity that's developed in Meaford, and it's proposed at this point by TC Energy, is a pump storage project where you would take excess power hydro that is generated during the evening, which is in excess, and use it to pump up energy, water, and then turn the turbines when you need it. So it's a kind of an on-demand storage facility that is also emissions free. Hydrogen Optimized is a company that is producing and manufacturing large-scale electrolyzers. Strangely enough, they were a local company that was located for many years just down the road from us, but have decided with this opportunity about hydrogen to expand into a former auto plant facility, and they're looking at automating that process. So it's an interesting opportunity that has developed over the push for emissions-free energy. Isotope production, again, this is a spin-off from the nuclear facility, a real focus on producing medical isotopes, expanding the production and the types of isotopes. And what we're told is not just a little bit, an awful lot, significant supply increase and of new isotopes that are coming online. And then a nuclear waste facility that is being considered in south of us. This will be a very large project to deal with the nuclear waste. Right now it's stored above ground, and this would be a long-term strategy. Again, significant investment potential. And that's our clean energy focus at the moment. Next slide. I think that's the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that. Very, very interesting. I have a couple of questions for you, but before we get to that, you mentioned a company, Hydrogen Optimized, and it just coincidentally happens we just published a video actually about Grey County that we developed in cooperation with your group in our Competitive Advantage series, in which we want to look at specifically that issue. How are you building or rebuilding your competitive advantage? And I want to just play a clip here. It's about 2 minutes on this company, Hydrogen Optimized, to give us a flavor for what you're talking about. So if you could roll that, please.
Hi, I'm Vice President of Product Strategy at Hydrogen Optimized. My name is Ted Stewart. I'm a co-founder of Hydrogen Optimized, and I'm an enlisted inventor on our core patents. Well, Hydrogen Optimized is a clean technology company. We make and manufacture and design and sell a device called a water electrolyzer. Water electrolyzers take water and power and split up water into its base elements, hydrogen and oxygen. Then what companies can do when they have hydrogen is decarbonize a lot of industries that can't be decarbonized with direct electrification. You decarbonize steel manufacture, you can burn it as a flame without carbon. You can do all sorts of different industrial and mobility applications without any impacts on the greenhouse gas emissions. And a lot of these areas where hydrogen being the only mechanism to do those decarbonizations. Hydrogen has been with us in industry made from carbon-based sources for many decades, over 100 years. But we're really talking about now using hydrogen to decarbonize industries that we haven't used it to decarbonize and breaking into different energy ecosystems. Right now, natural gas floats around the world as our energy commodity, but that's really changing towards hydrogen-based chemicals being the global energy commodities. When you're building a large-scale factory, it doesn't happen overnight. Firstly, industrial infrastructure is critical. What Owen Sound has, which is rather special, is a large industrial park on the shores of the Georgian Bay. And many other communities, we were founded in Collingwood and came to Owen Sound because of the industrial infrastructure and industrial park which you can find here. And a lot of communities have decided to stop having a pro-industry mindset and philosophy. And it's hard to go a decade without large new industry moving in. But since Owen Sound had policies and efforts to maintain that dedication to having industrial buildings, industrial zoning, industrial parks which are dedicated to that, we can see a future of growing and staying in Owen Sound. So that is really at the crux of it. The next major area is labor. Because we're sitting right now in what used to be the Tenneco factory, We now have a large footprint and we're looking to expand that footprint in the building. We're hiring back engineers who went away for school but couldn't find certain engineering jobs in the community, which you would easier find in the GTA or other locations. So I personally think Owen Sound has an underutilized talent and resource. You know, one of the folks we were hired, who's a skilled millwright, was working as someone doing a garbage route before they were working with us, because there was underutilization of the skills locally in the community. So we really see that as a great asset.
Thank you. Very, very interesting insight. Steve, I last was in Grey County, well, it has to be now going almost 8 to 10 years ago. And when I remember having discussion with some folks there, and they said, well, basically, you know, traditionally our industries have been golf courses and retirees. And from the home value, I can see that some of that is still true. But I'm really impressed with some of the stories you told, particularly Bruce Power and its decision to build a network of suppliers, because that's one of the ways in which you can make your economy just super sticky, sustainable in a different way. I'm curious, is that something you're really trying to encourage there?
Well, certainly, I would give full credit to the new CEO that has been in place for a number of years. Actually, I keep calling him new, but he's not. Mr. Renchek. He's the one who had the vision to say, it's good for Bruce Power if the suppliers are local. If they have a local presence, it's good for the workforce and it's good for the community. And of course, the community needs to understand nuclear power as well and be supportive. And I think they do. Not all communities understand nuclear. I guess we just, as a resident here, we know so many people who work there. We've had tours of the facility, and we understand the safety measures. We understand the technology and the benefit. But his vision of saying we want to have a presence. You don't have to move the entire facility supplier up, but you have to have a presence. And we're going to see some real economic benefit from that. I mean, once the refurbishings of these facilities are done, we're going to have a trained workforce that then can export their talents. I was told not too long ago that one of the facilities producing a particular part for the nuclear facilities is one of the only facilities in North America, and that they've chosen to select Owen Sound as the facility to do that. And so when we open up CANDU reactors worldwide for refurbishment, there's an export opportunity. So I give the credit to him. It's opportunistic to some degree, but it was part of his vision and part of the community's, Gray and Bruce and others helping to support that decision. So yes, it was a very it benefits the company, but it also benefits the community.
Yeah, I'm reminded of Waterloo, which of course saw BlackBerry become a very much smaller company than it had been before, and thousands of engineers being thrown out of work, and instead of them all having to go someplace to get a job, the rest of the technology industry rushed to Waterloo to start facilities so they could take advantage of it. That's what you want to have happen. Right. We'll come back to you in just a little while, Steve. But first, we're going to turn to Hector Cañas, who is again a senior consultant at Babel Smart Cities, and Hector's going to share a few slides with us to tell us exactly what that means. Hector.
Happily, thank you, Robert. Great. Today I wanted to bring the perspective of cities, of urban development to the topic of the webinar. And so starting, I would like to show you this very insightful graph that shows basically how nations worldwide rank in terms of their ecological footprint, but also in their human development. If you may see from the graph, what we have in the darker blue and green colors, countries in Europe and also in North America, they rank very high in what is human development. Nonetheless, also their economic development has, not prevent them to also have a positive ecological footprint. So then, from what Robert was mentioning at the beginning, we have a lot to fix from the problems of the past, right? So the fast urban development that we have done has prevented us from going into this blue zone, that's this blue zone of the sustainable development. And this is what basically smart places, smart cities are trying to solve, is to bring forward this human development, and also this reducing the ecological footprint by bringing a meaningful innovation that can truly not just bring us into more digital technologies or disruptive solutions, but also reduce the environmental impact they create. So then we need these solutions that can bring this change to what we have as a status quo during these days. But then what is slowing down or driving forward this change towards the blue box that I was showing you, or if you may say so, sustainability centered development? Well, in the left side, we have the drivers for reaching this sustainable centered development. And we can see that firstly, we have the market push that we have been seeing happening. And it's because some industries now have realized that there's a lot of growth potential that can be achieved through sustainability. So you can see from many top companies now, you can see in their annual reports that there's more investment going on into improving into the ESG. Also, another driver is the political push for development goals. There's a lot of, especially here in Europe, there's a lot of investment from the European Commission, the European Union, to meet the SDG goals and also the local climate agendas. And finally, as a push, we have digitalization. And basically, I believe that digitalization is just increasing the ability of becoming more efficient, and also not resorting into taking more resources than necessary for certain activities that now are done digitally. But however, we still have some challenges, and these are the ones I show here to the right. And I think the primary challenge is that this change cannot be done alone. We have now a more increasing need into involving citizens and stakeholders in this transition, and for sure this always increases the complexity of any development strategy. So I was talking to you about this market push that has been happening, and also this shift into the digitalization. And actually, we've seen that it's good news of what's occurring today, and also what has been forecasted for the future. We've seen that there has been a growth in the last 3 years on the investment that cities are doing into technologies and their digital transformation. And it is expected that this investment increases until 2030. And mostly this is because of the strict goals that cities worldwide have placed themselves to achieve by the 2030 and 2050 horizon. So these ambitious goals need to be accompanied by a economic commitment, right? some of the examples of this political push that we've seen is happening here in Europe. For example, there has been an initiative from the European Commission to develop 1,000 smart cities in Europe, and not only in Europe but also in the UK. We've seen that they have been supporting the development of smart cities through an initiative with around $40 billion. So there has been now some movements to support cities to start developing their own agendas and also their own investment roadmaps. But then how to reach this definition of smart cities or smart places? I think we need to consider three aspects or three dimensions, and mostly we focus in the first one, the technology dimension, and we leave behind the second and the third, the human and institutional. Yes, of course, we need to focus a lot in the technology, because the technology is what will eventually help us drive to our targets faster, especially if we want to achieve them in 2030, which is already 7 years from now. But also we need to bring closer those who will, let's say, cohabit in this newly formed smart place, and for this we need to do stronger stakeholder engagement, to also have this buy-in from citizens and from companies, organizations that will either implement the solutions or use them. And finally, the institutional dimension is very important, because and nothing could occur or nothing can really be in our urban space if it also is not approved by our regulations or legislations. And then to finalize, I just want to bring you this 6 building blocks for a successful development strategy. Any strategy needs to start with a well-rooted vision, and here's where the stakeholder engagement part is crucial, and the human dimension of the smart city comes to shine. So from the start, there needs to be a consensus and an alignment of where this development should head. Also, there must be tangible outcomes set in a long term and also in a short term, but then the long term ones I believe are the most relevant, since in the short term we're not able to perhaps see the change that we expect from the strategy. Also, the business model aspect is very important, since these solutions need to be sustainable through time, and if this solution is not accompanied by a way for it to be profitable and also work independently from, let's say, public funding money, then it's doomed to not pass from a short-term horizon. The partnering ecosystem is also important, since we need to seek the collaboration from partners locally, but also externally, sharing best practices, sharing lessons learned from implementations. And then finally is the city as a service that we called, and it's basically that the city can host this solutions or services or innovations for their citizens to to enjoy it and to, well, just increase their, let's say, quality of life. And then finally, the organizational change is just that we need to promote these programs or initiatives locally, so that we keep the, let's say, the refreshing the development strategies once we're hitting these milestones that we have set first in our vision. Well, and before just leaving, I just wanted to invite you to a I think a really insightful event that we will be organizing on the 20th of June, and I think that it connects really well to the discussion topic that we're having today. This will happen in Germany, in Stuttgart, but it will be also available online to join, and we have very interesting guests coming to this event, and I'm pretty sure you will be gaining a lot of insights from their own implementations, and how they have how their development strategies, both mixing the innovation but also green, sustainable side, has gone. So yeah, I think I can share the link later in the chat, but otherwise you can easily look for it online. Well, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Hector. Just a note on that, my colleague Lou Zaccarello, one of the other co-founders of the Intelligent Community Forum, will be one of your speakers as well, and he's looking forward very much. I don't think he's ever been to Stuttgart, as well as this is our first time working so closely with your organization, so looking forward to that very much. Quick question for you before we swing back to Steve. I saw that chart of the rising investment. Everybody always loves to see that rising investment chart. When you invest, you want a return. Is the data kind of pointing at what the economic return is going to be from those investments, whether it's in lower operating costs or greater economic development, or I'm just right? Because it's always easy to throw a lot more money at technology. The question is, what do you get out of it? So I'm just curious if the data speaks to that at all. That was a question for you, Hector.
I thought you were directing to Steve the question.
No, sorry.
Well, I think the important thing is to see how they would how would they define this return, right? If it's in terms of monetary return on investment, or if they would be using other criteria more towards oriented towards sustainability, right? But it will be interesting if they include these KPIs in their strategy, and have this, like, being able for them to track it along the horizon of their strategies.
Well, that's the great thing about the public sector, quite frankly, is that you can measure, everything ultimately you can reduce to some kind of monetary estimate, but the values available for public sector investment are so much larger, because they're about economic growth, they're about contributions up and down the chain to how people live. Your point's well taken. Steve, let me turn to you, just because I was delighted to discover that your background includes being an economist. I love economists, for the Canadian Federal Agency Parks Canada. I know most people don't like economists, but I'm one of those strange people who do. So our whole topic here is sustainability, or resilience, or fighting back against climate change, intersecting with economic opportunity. You gave us a couple of examples from Grey County, but what are some of the other ways in which that intersection produces, a growing economy? I think Hector made the point. It's not like we're going to stop growing. we have to find ways to grow in which A, are sustainable, and frankly tap the sustainability opportunity to increase that growth rate. What are you seeing?
Yeah, so yeah, the economist part was it was funny because the business card said economist for Environment Canada because Parks Canada was under. Anyway, I didn't see myself as an economist, but that's the title. No,
Well,
it's just
I still like you, okay?
yeah, okay, that's great. That's great. So, sustainability, long term, you think Gray has been doing this for a long time and around agriculture and tourism. In fact, we're doing some things right now because during the pandemic, we had too many people flood into our green spaces all at once. But I think when you have sustainability and you set the standards high, and you're really talking about changing the way things were being done in the past. And when there's that change happening, those can be opportunities for you. So, we're no longer burning coal. We're no longer burning, we're getting away from natural gas. Those are opportunities. They have to be replaced. And Bruce Power, being a large percentage of the power produced in the province, is producing those opportunities. But, that can be enhanced. So when you look at isotopes being produced through Bruce Power, there's an opportunity that Bruce Power and the private sector is jumping on to help the medical community and researchers. But further than that, say the community of Owen Sound, how can they take advantage of that? Because isotopes are just an hour away, and the manufacturers are likely going to be, likely down further to the nuclear plant. But there are other spinoffs. So the spinoffs of the spinoffs, if you look at that, so for Owen Sound's situation, they have a hospital, and there's talk of creating a medical cancer treatment center right in that hospital. And with that is the opportunity to provide the facilities for isotope research. So you can see how you can build on the opportunities all the way down the value chain. And the important part is, what is your unique value proposition and how can you create that? And sometimes, I go back to the Owen Sound many years ago. Port City, that's how it was created. But the world of trucking and airplanes took the logistic advantage away from Owen Sound. So you had to reinvent itself. So sustainability, long-term, yes, you want it sustainable. I think those are lots of opportunities as we increase the bar around energy and go emissions free. And in our case, there's just a host of opportunities that have presented themselves.
One of the things that I really admire about what you're talking about is that depth you're trying to create. One of the best examples in the world is in the Dutch city of Eindhoven, which is home to ASML, which is basically almost has a total monopoly on the machines that make silicon chips. And they have very, very painstakingly, carefully over the years made sure to assemble a group of first-tier suppliers to ASML in Eindhoven, and then gone beyond that to the next level, that spin-off level of the companies that are supplying the first tier suppliers. So for ASML, which could frankly do what it does anywhere, there's no better place in the world to be. And you're talking about a similar kind of thing there with Bruce Power as an anchor, finding multiple ways to stretch that out in different directions, and all ultimately about sustainability.
Right. I mean, go ahead.
No. I have another thought, but this is not. I'm not the guy with the thought. So you go ahead.
Well, one of the things that I've noticed, and you talked earlier before about branch plants, it's labor pool is so important. I mean, when we talk about technology and changing in Bruce Power, there is a labor force, but we want to make sure that labor force can reinvent itself and it's skilled. And if you have the labor force, you can have a facility close and you can have another one transition. And you've heard Hydrogen Optimized talk about that. But so, as an action item, as a municipality, this was very important to us. We were very concerned actually with Bruce Power expansion that the non-nuclear sector was going to get hit very hard as they were looking for skilled labor. So we as a municipality purchased a former school right next to our community college, And the whole goal is to help the college grow and grow locally and to develop the training opportunities that are here locally as opposed to leaving the community. We found over the years that once our young people leave the community, they don't come back because they get those jobs and life in another area. So to us, this is a foundational piece when you talk about sustainability and transitioning. Fundamentally, labor pool and attracting, it's kind of a chicken and egg, the business comes, trains people, you build on it and you build on it.
Exactly. It is always, that's what makes it hard, the chicken or egg part of it. Hector, you gave us a nice overview of kind of, and I'll call it, forgive me, I'll call it the European city approach to this, and the European Union's obviously deeply involved, as you mentioned. Can you give us an example or two of programs, whether they're created by the city, whether they're created by the EU, that are doing that thing of not just achieving a more sustainable or lower emission economy, but also creating new economic opportunities from it?
Yes, actually, I think the most impactful one has been the one called Covenant of Majors initiative. This is an initiative launched by the Commission, in which they are basically supporting local communities, cities from any scale, from big to small, into advancing into their climate and energy agenda. And one of the let's say the most important sub initiatives from the Covenant of Major has been the establishment of sustainable energy and action plans in the signatory cities, and so they have more than 10,000 cities that have signed this covenant have now implemented these energy action plans, and it's driving a lot of investment locally in the cities based on the let's say in the different measures that they have devised in these plans. So I think this is one of the ones that have had the most larger impact across Europe, and it's still then promoting more involvement from cities in other programs that then align with those priorities that they have established in these plans.
Interesting. So presumably this all is around generating energy with fewer or no emissions. I mean, is that basically the target for this?
Yeah. So also the Covenant of Majors aligns, for example, with the Paris Agreement, and also with then the macro targets that the European Union has established in terms of climate action.
Do you think, this is a question just off the top of my head, but when Russia shut down a lot of gas transport to Europe, there were terrible forecasts of economic impact, and everyone was pleasantly surprised to discover that Germany, among the leading users of Russian gas, was able to adapt so remarkably fast and seemed to accomplish it without a great deal of economic impact. Do you think it's because of these programs that were already in place, that people have been working on these things, so that gas became much less important than we thought?
Well, I think we can also look at the bad side of what has happened due to the energy crisis. For example, of politicians in Germany deciding to go back into brown coal energy.
Light up that line. Well, I love that whole story, because we shut down our nuclear plants. Just to bring Steve into this, we shut down our nuclear plants in Germany, and what we had to do for baseline power? We started burning coal. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, but well, one of the things also that has promoted that countries from the EU have adapted well is because they had already had some track record of work done to doing in this energy transition. So I believe that they already had some escape routes for the situation, but for sure it has been very hard to, let's say, not on a residential or urban level, but in a industrial level, it has been very hard
Sure.
for local industries to adapt to this then sudden shortage of energy supply. But I think now it's much more stable.
Well, indeed, and that's the kind of resilience that we're all going to have to develop because the predictability of the world is declining quite quickly. Just an observation, at ICF, we've had the privilege of working with cities and counties that have truly smart, they're really smart in the larger sense, not just technically, and have very far-sighted leadership. But I'm always struck that when we ask them about our sustainability factors being one of the things you need to be working on, it's amazing how we just hear the same things over and over again. And what we hear are they have electric vehicle chargers, they recycle, they are going to install or are installing smart LED streetlights, they retrofit buildings to save energy. And this is all good stuff. But it's all about the past. It's all about fixing the past. And only a minority are focusing on getting their share of sustainability growth. So I mean, I think this is an attitude question I'm really asking. From your experience working with local government, and I'm going to turn to Steve first. Why do you think that is that we just tend to go to the stuff that we already know?
Well, how do I say this?
Sorry, I hope think carefully now. Think carefully.
Yeah, be careful. So at a municipal level, I find it can be, we have upper levels government that set policy that go across a much larger region. So I think part of it is we have to have policies and work with upper levels of government. But I think it's hard for municipalities to really take a leadership or, in certain areas for sure. But, we're talking about 8 individuals, a council that has to then be talking about public money that has to be accountable, and a lot of rate players. It's the bottom line. I just want my taxes low, and that question comes up all the time. And so some of these projects, if you're going to get into them, there is a bit of risk, and you have to understand that. I'll give you an example. We had a local municipality, 2, that partnered. They went and built a biodigester because they were anticipating provincial legislation that was going to change and cause a lot of feedstock. That didn't happen. And so they're trying to understand what to do with this biomass years later, this specific biodigester. But they didn't get rewarded for making that decision. And so it's sometimes difficult for municipalities. It's best if in my mind, it's best if municipalities can work with the private sector, see opportunities, support them, create the environment for that industry to grow. And that could be policies, planning policies. It could be just championing them. It could be doing research with them. I have another local municipality that is looking at offering, I shouldn't say they've done this yet, it's just talk, a snow removal equipment that is currently gas powered. There's a suggestion that maybe it could be hydrogen or maybe it could be battery. And would they be willing to experiment on that? So I think these are ways that the municipality at a local level can jump on board. And yes, of course, there's bigger picture opportunities, but you got to have that vision first, and you got to focus on it. But it is hard for municipalities to, I would say, partner or take a leadership on their own.
Yeah, no, and understood. And that's actually something that Hector shared with us. Is it all starts with a vision, doesn't it? And that's certainly the case. Hector, that Steve's comment makes me want to ask you the question: is sometimes from afar we look at the huge amounts of money that the European Union will spend in various areas, or the Covenant of Mayors with their standards. But I'm wondering if the overall reason for all of this is to de-risk the progress. to reduce some of that risk that Steve was just talking about from the need to create progress on sustainability, which can ultimately pay dividends. Have you ever thought about it that way?
Well, that's a very, I would say, trick question. But
Good.
they're risking through their investment.
I mean, am I being clear at all? What I'm basically saying is if it's hard for a municipality to make decisions to do things that maybe seem a little risky in the sustainability agenda, if a higher level of government,
Okay.
if it's offering money, if it's doing a number of things to say, well, of course you're going to do this, then that makes it a lot easier for municipal government, which has so many
Yeah.
responsibilities.
Yeah, and I think that's something that facilitates a lot especially the innovation agenda of a municipality. Let's also following the example of Steve when he was saying that perhaps in a municipal or city council office you might have a very small staff, perhaps with with limited capacities, let's say, into this new disruptive forms of projects. So then they would need support from let's say from the organizations above to first fund this type of projects, and then they will be able to hire new technicians or new staff members to support this local projects. But also, I mean, cities above all, and especially the smaller to medium-sized ones, have limited budgets to develop this projects, right? So they required support from the commission or from the government itself to carry forward these projects.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's not like there's a lot of cash sitting around not going to work. That brings us to the end of this discussion, which has been very, very interesting. I want to thank both Steve Furness from Grey County in the beautiful province of Ontario, Canada, and Hector Cañas, senior consultant from Babel Smart Cities, and also the beautiful city of Barcelona. So thank you both very much for making the time and sharing your insights with us. And I want to finish with just a little bit about what's coming up next here in ICF. And all I have to do is get to the right screen and it'll all be good. Okay, this is a very busy month for us coming up. Just yesterday, we released this video of which you saw a clip, Grey County Innovation in Rural Ontario, the first of our Competitive Advantage series, which goes into the depth that you need if you're running a municipality to understand how somebody else has crafted a competitive advantage that's working for them. On June 13th, we're going to be releasing a special report called Building Success for Your Municipal Network, 7 Principles for Deployment. And these are about things, I think, at least I felt when we were working on the report, some very unexpected things that can help you get a network project off the ground and make sure that it achieves success if that's what you need to do. On June 19 and 20, we will be to the east of Toronto, as I mentioned, doing a conference called Better Together, Building a Strong Region for Diverse Communities. And we're doing that in partnership with the regional municipality of Durham, Ontario. And the last day of that, June 20 in the evening, we will be announcing our top 7 intelligent communities of the year. That's part of our international award program. One of them is on its way to becoming our intelligent community of the year, which we'll announce in October in New York City. And again, thanks to Durham for stepping up and using this as an opportunity to get their message out while also helping to spread the Intelligent Community Forums movement. And then on July 13th, I'll be conducting a video interview with a gentleman named Brian Snyder, and he's the founder and CEO of Lit Communities, a very different and unusual network development company. And we'll be talking about public-private partnerships for broadband networks. So light up your community on July 13th. It's a great chance to get to know a little bit more about how networking can affect your community's future. So that's it from us. Again, thanks to Steve and to Hector, and we look forward to having you join us on our next webinar. Take care.